Last week, following his party room meeting on his signature policy, the National Energy Guarantee, the Prime Minister stood in the courtyard alongside his Energy Minister, Josh Frydenberg, and declared a big win. It was his mission accomplished moment, and as Andrew Bolt exposed, his boosters in the press gallery backed him in, even so far as underestimating the number of so-called energy rebels who said they'd cross the floor if necessary to ensure lower power prices before lower emissions. Such is the groupthink of this place, I wasn't surprised. But what's happened since has been extraordinary, as more MPs voiced their opposition to the Turnbull-Frydenberg plan. And as a consequence, almost day by day, the PM has rewritten his policy. Today, in his most inconsistent press conference that I've ever seen, he declared that the NEG is still the policy, only it isn't because he hasn't got the numbers to legislate it. Now, I'm no slouch in this policy area, but even I'm struggling to follow the government's gymnastics here. And if I can't follow it, heaven help the busy voters out there in marginal seats. Therein lies the government's fundamental problem. NEG, is it in or out? Well, joining me now to do his best to make sense of it all is the chair of the government's Backbench Policy Committee on Energy, Mr. Craig Kelly. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Peter. I think.
OK, this morning I took from the Prime Minister's press conference that the NEG was gone, dead, buried and cremated.
That's right, it looked like it was dead and done and dusted.
And I'm not the only one, because Andrew Gee and a number of your colleagues came out and congratulated the Prime Minister on listening to his backbench and dropping what has been a very difficult policy. But this afternoon, I couldn't get a straight answer from watching Parliament, and it looks like very clearly from David Spears' interview with Scott Morrison that you absolutely have the NEG, you just won't legislate it. And Michael McCormack, who leads the National Party, I have to say was all over the shop. I'll just play a grab from Michael McCormack right now.
24% is business as usual. Paris says 26%. My understanding is that we will meet that 26%, and at the moment,
and
we're absolutely getting there. Yep.
Well, can you tell me by who?
Well, those people who actually measure these things. But the fact is, at the end of the day, Labor wants 45%. So we don't want to make sure.
I'm just wondering where this suggestions come from that you'll actually exceed the 26% reduction.
Well, in the paperwork that I've read, in everything that I've, and of course we have briefings from the Environment Department, etc.
Is this from the department?
Well, my readings of the various government papers and the newspapers and media reports that I read and see.
Now, I know you might get more information from the media than you're even getting as the chair of the backbench from your own side, but where are we up to? Is there a NEG?
Well,
is it not a NEG?
We had a NEG last week up until Friday afternoon, which we still hadn't, we still hadn't seen the full legislation. This is the original NEG.
This is the NEG with the 26 legislated in it?
Yes, yeah, yes? Okay. And then on Friday, late Friday afternoon, we had a NEG, so I call it 2.0, that actually had the future Labor government could change this by regulation.
Okay, this is the NEG that went, the 26 came out of the legislation and the 26 went in via regulation.
Well, it could, and also the more concern was it could be upped by a future Labor government by regulation. So this was a real concern. So over the weekend, I had a lot of phone calls and people had said to me, look, I was on board before and I wasn't all that happy with the legislation, and as some people had called it, putting lipstick on a pig. They now came and said to me on the weekend, look, now we've got this regulation in here that Labor can change it. I can no longer support this. So that's where we were sort of up until this morning. And now this morning we know that it's no longer going to be put into the Parliament, but it's still coalition policy now. I'm not sure.
Have you got NEG with the legislation at 26, or is it NEG with regulation?
Well, I'm not sure whether it's the original NEG or it's NEG 2.0. We hopefully will find that detail out.
So what
tomorrow.
are they telling you when you had your briefing from the Prime Minister's office or Josh Frydenberg's department?
We'll get that tomorrow. We've got our backbench committee in tomorrow morning. We hopefully will find out a little bit more detail.
So you haven't had a briefing from the Energy Minister's office or department?
Not yet, no.
So how do you know what you're going to present? You're the chair of the backbench committee. What are you going to recommend to the backbench committee if you haven't got a briefing?
We'll turn up and find out what it is. But look, what I recommend
You're
is
kidding me.
Well, Peter, what I recommend is I at the moment can't support the...
How can you advocate? How can you advocate for the backbench, Craig Kelly, if you haven't got a briefing and you can't tell me live on air right now whether the new NEG that won't be legislated but is still coalition policy, according to Scott Morrison, according to the Prime Minister, whether that neg is a neg that you will intend, if you have the numbers, to legislate the 26, or whether it's the new neg, the Friday neg, as opposed to the Tuesday neg, the Friday neg, where you would give the pen to the Minister to decide what the Paris targets are under Australian law. Which neg is it?
Well, Peter, you can see how confusing it is, and the reality is I don't know.
So how do you sell that to someone in Penrith, in a marginal seat of Lindsay, that gobbledygook that I've just gone through?
Well, this is why I would hope that we would scrap it all together and we simply talk about price. We talk about what Labor's 45% emissions reduction target. Remember, it's not only in electricity. Everyone focuses on electricity, but Labor want to do this in transport. They want to do it in agriculture. They want to do it in commercial aviation, mining. This is why it was so dangerous to put it in legislation, because you set the precedent for all those other sectors.
Yeah, but your Prime Minister today has kept the neg alive. He hasn't taken that to the party room before he decided to keep the neg alive. Your colleagues thought he dumped the neg this morning. Clearly he has not. The Treasurer restated that the neg is policy. We don't know, you and I don't know whether it's neg with legislation or neg with regulation, but you've got a neg, right? So you still have this issue with transport and you still have this issue with agriculture.
And mining and industry and keep going on, all those other sectors. Now, but we're just talking about electricity at the moment. Now, whichever neg it is, there's still enough opposition from a considerable number of backbenchers. We're now, at least it's in double figures, which either one you look at.
If it's not opposition, Craig Kelly, I bet you it's incoherence, because I can't follow what you've got on the table as policy. This is the biggest issue that the coalition is facing. You're not an opposition in a dodgy state parliament. You are the government of Australia, and there's no clarity. You're the chair of the backbench committee. There's no clarity on what your policy is.
Well, that's why hopefully tomorrow at the full party room meeting, we'll get that detail. We'll know where we stand and we can know what we can go out and we can advocate to the Australian people talking about getting electricity prices down, because we just can't hold them where I get them a little bit. We've got to get them down substantially. We've got to show people we're doing that before the election, and we've got to get out there and explain to them the difference between our policy and Labor's policy and show them that ours is a lot better. And while there's this confusion about the neg, we simply can't do that.
But why would anyone believe you?
Well, Peter, we have to get out and argue it. We've got to work out exactly where we are.
Which policy are you arguing?
Well, Peter, we should be arguing. We've got
Tuesdays?
we've got the neg. The neg is shelved. With the neg, whether it's the original neg, whether it's neg 2.0, they are
4
shelved.
o'clock with Scott Morrison. Which policy are you arguing?
They are shelved, right? They still exist there and they are shelved. And as long as there is opposition from the coalition backbench, I understand they're not going to be introduced into Parliament. So aside from that, we've got policies taking from the ACCC recommendations, and we've got those policies that will help drive electricity prices down, and that's what we've got to get out and explain to the Australian people.
Any wonder at the last election that you came from opposition to government, the message was as simple as stop the boats, scrap the tax, end the rorts. Any wonder you had a simple policy, because they are complex issues. This is an incredibly complex issue.
You're right. It is extremely complex when you talk about capacity factors,
you haven't had
emissions
a briefing.
intensities.
You don't even know what neg you're talking about. I think this is chaotic.
Well, Peter, we have got some work to do. It has been untidy. Let's see what happens tomorrow.
Well, please, someone in the Prime Minister's office, get off your backside and give your backbench chair a briefing, because I tell you what, it's going to be a train wreck in the party room tomorrow if he can't even advocate for what's been announced and flipped over and turned around and then come back again at 4 o'clock this afternoon. We'll go to a break. Hopefully I can find some paper and some legislation and read up a bit more about it myself. Stay with us.